Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with me. This time we're looking to something that's been all over the news lately, the potential sale of U.S. Steel, and President Biden's decision to step in. I mean, this thing goes way beyond just like a normal business deal.
Yeah.
Right? This gets to the heart of American industry, the national security, and honestly, even like the global economy.
Yeah. It's really fascinating because it takes us back to the roots of American industry, U.S. Steel, it was founded back in 1901. It was a giant, think about it. This company built the skyscrapers that make up our cities, the bridges that connect us, and the infrastructure. That really keeps our nation running. It was like a symbol of American power, and now here we are in the 21st century. And its future is all tied up with these global economic forces and national security worries. It really makes you think about how much the world has changed, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And to add to that, the company that was trying to buy U.S. Steel, Nippon Steel, they're a major player on the global stage, like the fourth biggest steel maker in the world.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see why this possible acquisition got everyone talking.
Absolutely. This whole situation really highlights the challenges that industrialized nations are facing these days, right? How do you boost economic competitiveness while also making sure industries that are crucial to your national interests are secure? Where's the line between open markets and protecting what's vital to your own security? Tough questions.
That's where the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States comes in, right? Or as most people call it, CFI-US. They're the ones who have to look closely at any deals that involve foreign companies, especially when those deals could have an impact on national security. And in this case, CFI-US hit a roadblock.
Oh yeah, they were totally split down the middle, a 50-50 deadlock, meaning there were strong arguments on both sides. Some members probably saw it as a chance for investment and growth in the U.S. steel industry, but others were more worried about the risks to national security. And because of that deadlock, the decision ended up going all the way to the top, to President Biden.
Right. And as we know, President Biden decided to block the acquisition. He said he was worried about national security and the potential problems of relying on a foreign company for such a crucial resource. Think about it. Steel is essential for our infrastructure, for our defense, for everything from bridges and buildings to military equipment.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about physical infrastructure either. There were worries that having a foreign owner could mess up the supply chain. For steel, imagine if international tensions were to rise or a conflict breaks out. Relying on another country for something as important as steel could put the U.S. in a really tough spot. This whole case really shows how strategically important some industries are and how important it is to have a secure and reliable supply chain here in the U.S.
Now, this decision had real-world consequences for American workers. The reaction from labor unions and steelworkers has been really positive overall. They see this as a win for American jobs and a sign that the Biden administration is serious about protecting American workers.
It is interesting to see how this decision has played out with the labor unions. Even some unions that haven't always agreed with the administration are praising this move. It shows just how much this issue matters to American workers, especially those in industries that have been hit hard by globalization and competition from overseas.
For sure. And while it might seem like a setback for U.S. Steel at first glance, it could actually open up some interesting possibilities. Instead of being bought by a foreign company, they can look at other options. Maybe even options that wouldn't have been on the table before.
Yeah, this could be a chance for U.S. Steel to really chart a new course. Imagine them partnering with other American companies, finding innovative ways to modernize their operations, or even taking advantage of government programs designed to revitalize manufacturing in the U.S. It could be a whole new chapter for them.
This decision also fits into a bigger trend we're seeing from the Biden administration. They're being a lot more cautious about foreign investment, especially when it comes to sectors that are seen as strategically important, like technology and infrastructure. Remember when TikTok was almost forced to sell a few years ago? That was because of similar concerns about data security and the potential for foreign influence.
You're right. It shows that the administration is focused on putting American interests first, whether that means safeguarding national security, making sure the economy is stable, or protecting sensitive data. And that's a noticeable change from the more unpredictable approach we saw from the previous administration.
It really is. And it's interesting to see how this deliberate approach plays out in different situations. Instead of just reacting to things as they happen, the Biden administration seems to be focusing more on long-term strategic planning when it comes to economic and national security policies. And this proactive approach is likely to have ripple effects across various sectors.
You're absolutely right. This deliberate and strategic approach brings up some important questions. How will it affect future deals involving critical sectors? What message does it send to foreign investors who are thinking about investing in the U.S.? How do we balance the need for economic growth with the need to protect national security? These are just some of the things we need to think about moving forward.
This is where things get really interesting, and we've only just scratched the surface. Stay with us, because we're going to dive even deeper into what this decision means and what it means for the future of U.S. Steel American industry and the global economic landscape.
It's interesting when you think about the historical parallels here. Back in the early 1900s, U.S. Steel was formed through all these mergers and acquisitions, bringing together American steel production under this one huge corporation. It was a major moment for American industry, like a symbol of our economic dominance on the world stage.
And over a century later, we're seeing a shift back to this more localized and strategically controlled approach to this crucial industry. It's like history repeating itself, wouldn't you say?
It definitely seems that way. And this shift, it's not just happening in the U.S. We're seeing it in other countries, too. Governments are realizing that some industries like steel semiconductors and rare earth minerals, they're just too important to national security and economic independence to be left to the ups and downs of the global market.
So what does this mean for the future of foreign investment in America? Are we going to see more deals blocked? Will international companies be hesitant to invest here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it's safe to say that we're in a new era where national security is going to be much more important in investment decisions. Governments are more aware of the potential risks that come with foreign ownership of critical industries, especially in a world where geopolitical tensions are rising.
Makes sense. The world is a very different place than it was even a decade ago. We're dealing with all these global challenges, geopolitical rivalries, supply chain problems, cyber threats, and of course the constant worry about data security. It's a whole new game.
Exactly. And this decision, it sends a clear message. The U.S. is willing to put its national security interests first, even if it means slowing down or changing the direction of foreign investment in certain sectors. It's a signal to the world that we're not just open for business at any cost. We're going to be more strategic, more careful about the kinds of investments we welcome.
Some might say that this approach could stifle innovation. Foreign investment often brings new ideas, new technologies, and much-needed capital.
Yeah.
So how do we find that balance between protecting our interests and creating an environment that encourages growth and progress?
It's a tough balancing act for sure, but I think the key is to be strategic and selective. We can encourage foreign investment in areas where it benefits both the U.S. and the foreign company, while also putting safeguards in place to protect industries that are essential to our national interests. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
So we need a more nuanced approach.
Yeah.
Something like smart globalization, where we engage with the global economy strategically, taking advantage of the benefits while minimizing the risks.
Exactly. It's about using the power of global markets while also making sure we're protecting our core interests and building a more resilient economy. And that takes a long-term vision and a commitment to strategic planning, not just reacting to things as they happen.
Which brings us to the question of leadership. President Biden has decades of experience in foreign policy and national security, both as a senator and as vice president. How do you think his background and experience might have shaped his decision-making in this case?
Well, President Biden has seen the complexities of the global landscape firsthand, and he knows how important it is to safeguard American interests on the world stage. He understands that delicate balance between diplomacy and strength, between cooperation and competition, and his deep understanding of these issues probably played a role in his decision to prioritize national security in this situation.
He's also been very vocal about his commitment to American workers and strengthening the middle class. That focus on the well-being of American families probably factored into his thinking too.
Absolutely, and let's not forget the political context. He's working in a very divided political landscape, both here in the U.S. and internationally. Every decision he makes is going to be scrutinized and debated, and he has to navigate those political realities while also trying to move his policy agenda forward.
Okay, so we've talked about the national security side of things, but let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the economic side. What kind of impact could this decision have on the global steel industry? Are there any potential ripple effects we should be thinking about?
This is where things get really interesting. The global steel market is already facing a bunch of challenges, from overcapacity to changing demand to ongoing trade tensions. It's a dynamic and often unpredictable market.
And then there's the issue of climate change and the pressure to make heavy industries like steel production more environmentally friendly. That adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
For sure. So President Biden's decision to block this acquisition, it throws another wrench into an already complex and dynamic situation. It could lead to higher steel prices, especially in the U.S., as domestic producers face less competition from foreign companies.
And those higher prices could have a ripple effect throughout the economy, impacting everything from construction costs to manufacturing to the prices we all pay for everyday goods.
Right. We could also see more trade disputes as countries try to protect their own steel industries from what they see as unfair competition. This could lead to more tariffs, quotas, and other protectionist measures being put in place around the world.
So this decision could set off a chain reaction with consequences that go way beyond the U.S. steel industry.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we live in a very interconnected world, and what happens in one country can have a big impact on other countries. What might seem like a domestic issue can quickly become a global one.
It also shows how strategically important certain industries like steel have become. It's not just about building things anymore. It's about national security, economic competitiveness, and even global stability. Having control over these key industries gives countries more power on the international stage.
And as we move towards a more sustainable future, the steel industry is going to play a crucial role. In developing the new technologies and processes, we need to reduce carbon emissions. The countries that control their own steel production will be in a better position to shape that future.
So even though President Biden's decision might seem like just a domestic issue on the surface, it actually has major global implications. It's a reminder that economic policy and national security are becoming more and more intertwined, and that the decisions we make today can have long-lasting consequences.
I agree. And it highlights how important it is to understand the complex relationship between domestic politics, global economics, and national security. This isn't just a story about steel. It's a story about the forces that are shaping our world and the choices we face as a nation.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at the historical context, the political calculations, the economic implications, and the global ripple effects of this decision.
And we've seen how one event can shed light on some of the biggest challenges and opportunities we're facing in the world today. It's a reminder that even in a world that's changing so rapidly, there are still fundamental principles at play, and that the decisions we make today will shape the world of tomorrow.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more question I want to explore. What does this decision tell us about the future of U.S. steel itself? Can a company that was once a symbol of American industrial power adapt and thrive in this new, more complex landscape?
That's a great question. U.S. Steel is at a crossroads. They can choose to hold on to the past and hope that things go back to the way they were, or they can embrace the challenges and opportunities of this new era and reinvent themselves for a new age.
And that reinvention might mean focusing on innovation, developing cutting-edge technologies, finding ways to produce steel in a more sustainable way, and building partnerships that strengthen their position in the global market.
Exactly. They might also need to look for new markets, diversify their products, and find creative ways to add value in a world that's changing so quickly. It's a time for bold leadership and strategic thinking.
So while the future is uncertain, there's still hope for U.S. Steel. But it's going to take adaptability, a willingness to embrace change, and a clear vision for the future.
That's how you survive, isn't it? Not just for U.S. Steel, but for any company or even any country that wants to thrive in the 21st century. We have to be willing to adapt, to evolve, and to constantly reinvent ourselves as we face new challenges and opportunities.
It's kind of like U.S. Steel's journey. It's a reflection of the challenges and opportunities facing the whole American economy. You know, we have this amazing history of industrial power and innovation, but we're also trying to figure out a world that's changing faster than ever. Globalization, new technologies, the move towards a more sustainable future, all these things are reshaping the foundation of our economy.
You're right. And just like the American economy, U.S. Steel has the potential to not just survive, but to actually do really well in this new environment. It's going to take bold leadership, being open to new ideas and technologies, and a commitment to building a stronger and more sustainable future.
Makes you wonder if this decision, this turning point for U.S. Steel, could actually be what pushes them to make some big changes.
Yeah.
Could this be what they need to really focus on innovation, invest in cutting-edge technologies, and become a global leader in sustainable steel production?
That would be an interesting story, wouldn't it? Seeing a company that was once a symbol of American industrial power reinvent itself as a pioneer in a new era of manufacturing. It would really show how adaptable and resilient American ingenuity can be.
It would. And it would show the world that American industry is still a major force, that we're not just sitting back, but actively shaping the future of manufacturing and innovation.
It would also show the impact of smart government policies that find the right balance between protecting national interests and creating a dynamic and competitive economy. policies that encourage innovation while making sure key industries stay strong and secure.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, let's bring it all together.
Right.
What are the main things we learned from exploring this complex issue? What do we want our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that national security isn't just about military strength anymore. It's about economic strength, technological leadership, and having reliable supply chains. It's about making sure we have a solid foundation to handle the challenges of a world that's becoming more and more complex and unpredictable.
And that means making strategic choices about foreign investment, doing things to protect key industries, and investing in innovation and workforce development right here at home.
Yeah.
We can't just react to things. We need to be proactive in shaping our economic future.
Another important point is that what happens in our country is connected to the global economy and national security. We can't look at these things separately. Things that seem isolated, like the potential sale of one company, can actually have a ripple effect that goes way beyond our borders.
So we need leaders who can think strategically, make quick decisions, and handle these complicated situations with a clear vision for the future. Leaders who get how all these things are connected and can see the challenges and opportunity that are coming our way.
And even with all the complexity and uncertainty out there, I think this story gives us some hope. It reminds us that even in a world that's changing so fast and where competition is so intense, there's still room for growth, innovation, and resilience. It shows that American industry still has what it takes to adapt, evolve, and succeed.
It's a reminder that we have the creativity, the resources, and the willpower to build a future where American workers and American companies can compete and win on a global scale. But we can't just assume the future will happen. We have to work for it, invest in it, and make good choices that set us up for success.
That's a great point to end on. The future of American industry and the American economy is still being written, and we all have a part to play in shaping that story.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic that's shaping our world. Until then, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.